It was early evening in Arlington, Virginia. Claire was folding laundry, while the TV played softly in the background. The sound of firm, deliberate knocking broke the monotony. Startled, she opened the door to find a man in a dark suit, his badge glinting under the porch light. "Mrs. Thompson?" he asked. "Yes," she replied cautiously. "I'm Special Agent Miller. May I come in? I need to speak with you about your husband." Claire's stomach dropped. Her first thought was an accident, maybe work trouble. She stepped aside, allowing him into the living room. He carried a folder, thick with documents, and the air immediately felt heavier. Agent Miller placed a driver's license on the coffee table. It was Mark's. Same photo, same face. But the name wasn't Mark Thompson. Claire blinked. "That's my husband. Why does it say David Keller?" "That," Miller said firmly, "is who your husband really is. David Keller." The identity of Mark Thompson was created 15 years ago. He's been living under a false name ever since. Her heart pounded in her chest. That can't be true. There must be a mistake. The agent shook his head. "Ma'am, I'm afraid it's not, and you need to prepare yourself for what comes next." After the agent left, Claire sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the license. Memories flooded back. Mark avoiding questions about his family, claiming he had no surviving relatives. The way he changed topics when she asked about childhood. She recalled the time they tried to get a mortgage. Mark insisted on handling the paperwork himself. He never let her see the documents. Back then, she chalked it up to stress. Now, the puzzle pieces clicked together in ways she didn't want them to. That night, Mark came home from work, smiling as usual. "Hey, honey," he said, setting down his briefcase. Claire stared at him. Words stuck in her throat. Finally, she blurted, "Who are you really?" Mark froze. His smile vanished. "What are you talking about?" She held up the license. His face drained of color. "I can explain," he whispered. "Then explain now. Because a federal agent was in this house, and he told me you're not Mark Thompson." Mark sat down heavily on the couch, running a hand through his hair. "My real name is David Keller," he admitted. "Years ago, I changed everything. It wasn't because I wanted to lie to you. I was trying to survive." Claire's voice trembled. "Survive what?" He looked at her with haunted eyes. "I was involved with people I shouldn't have been. Dangerous people. I walked away, but they don't forgive and forget. If they found me under my real name, they'd kill me. And maybe you too." 2 days later, Agent Miller returned, this time with another officer. Claire let them in, Mark watching nervously from the corner. Miller spoke firmly. "Mr. Keller, your past has caught up with you. We know you were connected to a financial crime syndicate in New York. Back in 2008, you disappeared right before the investigation began." Mark's jaw tightened. "I wasn't part of their scams. I was a whistleblower. I tried to expose them, and it nearly cost me my life." Claire's head spun. A whistleblower? A criminal? Who was telling the truth? The following days were filled with tension. Claire couldn't sleep. She replayed every moment of their marriage. She wanted to believe him, but the lies had piled too high. Friends noticed her distraction. Neighbors whispered about the government agents at their door. One night, she confronted him again. "I don't even know if I love you anymore," she admitted through tears. "Because I don't even know who you are." Mark, David, looked broken. "I lied about my name, yes, but not about my love for you. That part was always real." Miller later showed Claire sealed documents, testimonies, police files, photos from New York. David Keller had indeed been listed as a witness in a massive fraud case involving millions of dollars, but he disappeared before the trial. Vanishing without explanation, Claire felt sick. Had he abandoned justice out of fear? Or was he more involved than he admitted? Her life, once ordinary, had become a storm of secrets and doubt. The pressure grew unbearable. Miller gave Claire a warning. "If you stay with him, You may become collateral damage. His enemies don't play by rules. That night, Mark begged her to leave town with him. We can start over somewhere else. Change our names again. Be safe. Claire stared at him, trembling. I can't keep running from a truth I don't even fully know. I need honesty, Mark, David, whoever you are. Without it, there's no marriage left. In the end, Claire made her choice. She walked into the FBI office alone, handing over the last piece of evidence she found hidden in their home. A bank document linking David Keller to offshore accounts. As she left the building, she felt both devastated and strangely free. The man she loved had never truly existed. Her husband was a stranger, and his secrets had nearly consumed her life. Standing in the parking lot, the weight lifted slightly. For the first time in years, Claire realized she had something he never truly gave her. The truth. And the truth, however painful, was hers to keep. The house felt like an empty shell. Mark's shoes were still by the door, his coffee mug on the counter, but he was gone. Claire walked from room to room, torn between relief and grief. She had made the choice, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like betrayal. At night, she couldn't sleep. The silence pressed against her ears. She wondered if he hated her now, or if deep down he understood why she did it. 2 weeks later, Agent Miller called. Mrs. Thompson, David Keller has agreed to cooperate. Your testimony and the documents you gave us were crucial. Claire swallowed hard. So, what happens to him now? He may serve time, or if his cooperation is complete, he could enter witness protection. The word protection echoed in her mind. He'd get a new identity again. A new life, without her. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. Friends avoided her. Neighbors whispered when she walked her dog. That's the woman whose husband was living a double life. She overheard one morning. Shame burned her cheeks. She wanted to scream that she was just as blindsided as everyone else. Instead, she lowered her head and walked faster. One afternoon, Claire opened her mailbox and found a letter. No return address. Inside was a short note, written in Mark's familiar handwriting. I never lied about loving you. I'm sorry for everything. Maybe one day you'll forgive me. Her hands shook as she read it over and over. It was both a comfort and a wound reopening. Claire began to question herself. Did she make the right choice? What if he truly had been a victim all along, just trying to survive? Was she complicit in destroying the man she once loved? Some nights, she caught herself imagining him walking through the door again, smiling, saying it had all been a misunderstanding. Then reality crushed her. She received a call from a defense lawyer representing David. He asked if she would testify in his favor. He claims you knew nothing, the lawyer said, but your voice could help the jury see him as a man, not just a case file. Claire was torn. Was she still his wife, or just another witness in a courtroom drama? Weeks later, Claire sat in the back of a federal courtroom. David entered in handcuffs, wearing a prison jumpsuit. For a moment, their eyes met. He looked older, thinner, but still the man she had shared a life with. When the prosecution spoke, they painted him as a manipulator who built his entire life on lies. When his lawyer defended him, he was described as a man who made one desperate choice to survive. Claire's heart broke as both versions clashed. When called to the stand, Claire's hands trembled. She told the truth. I didn't know who he really was, but the man I lived with for 8 years was kind, loving, and gentle with me. If that was an act, it was the most convincing act I've ever seen. The courtroom was silent. David's eyes filled with tears, but he said nothing. After days of testimony, the jury reached a verdict. David Keller was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison, with the possibility of early release if he continued cooperating. Claire felt her chest tighten. 7 years, enough time for her to rebuild, to move on, or enough time to wait if she chose to. Months passed. Claire sold the house and moved into a smaller apartment in the city. She started attending support groups for spouses of criminals. realizing she wasn't alone in her confusion and shame. One evening, while journaling, she wrote, "He took my past, but I still have my future. I don't know if forgiveness is possible, but healing is." For the first time, she believed it. It was a chilly morning in late October when Claire's phone buzzed. The caller ID read, "Federal Bureau of Prisons." A calm voice informed her, "David Keller will be released in 60 days under parole supervision. You are listed as his emergency contact. Would you like to remain on that list?" Claire's heart skipped. She hadn't heard his name spoken aloud in years. With a shaky voice, she said, "No, please remove me." But after hanging up, she sat frozen, her coffee growing cold. He was coming back into the world. That night, Claire dug out an old box from the closet. Inside were wedding photos, love letters, and little keepsakes from their years together. She hadn't looked at them since the trial. She traced his handwriting on an anniversary card, "Forever yours." The words felt like a ghost pressing against her heart. Was he still the man she loved? Or had he always been a stranger? A week later, another letter arrived. This one official, from David himself. He wrote, "I don't expect you to wait for me. I don't expect forgiveness. But when I get out, I want to see you once. Just once. To tell you everything I never could." Claire folded the letter carefully, but didn't throw it away. Her closest friend, Jenna, reacted with anger when Claire mentioned the letter. "Claire, don't even think about it," Jenna snapped. "He lied to you for nearly a decade. You don't owe him closure. You owe yourself peace." Claire nodded, but inside, doubt grew. Maybe hearing him out was the only way to truly move forward. On a cold morning in December, David walked out of the prison gates, thinner, older, his hair streaked with grey. He carried a small bag with the few belongings he had left. He didn't expect Claire to be there. She wasn't, but that didn't stop him from hoping. 3 days later, Claire's phone buzzed with a number she didn't recognize. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Claire," came the voice, rougher, deeper, but familiar. "It's me." Her throat tightened. "You shouldn't be calling me. I just want to see you once. After that, if you never want to hear from me again, I'll disappear. Please." Against Jenna's advice, Claire agreed to meet at a small coffee shop on the edge of town. When she walked in, her heart nearly stopped. David looked fragile, humbled, his eyes carrying years of regret. When he saw her, his face softened. "You look the same," he said quietly. She sat across from him, her hands trembling. "You don't." Over coffee, David finally spoke without hesitation. He confessed every detail. The fraud case, the threats, the fear that drove him to build a false life. "I wanted to protect myself," he said. "But I should have told you the truth before we married. I was selfish. I didn't want to lose you." Tears filled Claire's eyes. "You already lost me the moment you chose lies over trust." Before they parted ways, David whispered, "I don't expect a second chance, but I want to earn your forgiveness, even if it takes the rest of my life." Claire stood frozen, torn between anger and the faint echo of love she still felt. Could she ever let him back in? That night, Claire walked alone through the city streets, thinking about his words. She knew she had two paths: rebuild her life without looking back, or risk reopening the wound by allowing him in, even as just a friend. For the first time, the choice wasn't about survival. It was about who she wanted to be. And as the night grew colder, Claire realized the next step would define not just her future, but her peace.